Hello everyone and welcome along to another rugby discussion video. Today another World Cup naming squad is on our desk and we have the Springboks, the South Africans, who have been going through quite a bit of controversy lately, but today we're here to look at their 31-man squad, and of course a special team like the Springboks needs a special guest. I am joined by Brett, who is my new resident South African expert. Welcome along, thanks for joining me. How's things going?
Yeah, good, thanks for having me on your channel, man.
So people might be wondering, you know, who you are, why you're here, and why you think your opinion on South Africa matters. Do you want to give us a brief intro, a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Brett. For those of you listening, I've got a bit of an Aussie accent, but I'll show you. I was born in South Africa. I've lived there for most of my life, and just recently, in the last few years, I moved to Western Australia. So, yeah, very, very avid rugby supporter.
So is South Africa still your number one team?
Yeah, definitely. Wallabies aren't far behind, but South Africa all the way.
That's good, that's good. Like to hear that. Don't like too much support for those Wallabies at all. So this team, like I said, has been going under a bit of controversy, but we're here to look at the 31, and we might take a bit of a look, depending how our time goes, about this whole court case rubbish with the whole quota crap. Well, we'll see how time goes with that, but it's a squad today, and we're going to have a look at the 31 that was named last week by the coach. And if you say his name properly, I'm probably going to say it right, but Heinrich Meyer, is that how it's actually said with a South African accent?
It's pronounced Heinrich Meyer, so you're pretty close.
Pretty close, I'll take that. So we'll look at the squad here. Starting off, we'll start the front row where it all begins. There's plenty of people left out, plenty of people to talk about. But in the front row, we'll start with the props. They've gone with 5, and of course, a couple of them you could say were always going to be there, but there's always those controversial picks. Mtawera, Naikani, du Plessis, that's Yanni du Plessis, Mahalbre, and Oosterhuizen. What do you think of those 5? Is there anyone you're disappointed not to see there?
Not really. I think South Africa's pretty sorted, especially in the front row. Mtawera and Yanni du Plessis, you're always gonna see them, and Unyakani as well. There's not really any surprises there. I think this is the front row I think I would have taken as well.
Do you think it's any surprise, despite the fact that they played this player quite a lot, but Vincent Koch, if I said that properly, do you think it's surprising they've left him out? They played him quite a lot in the build-up in the Rugby Championship as well.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised there. Obviously, he had a decent Super Rugby season with the Stormers. I think he was a bit of a trial in the Rugby Championship, and I didn't think he did that badly. But obviously, they've decided to go another way.
I think they've gone more with the experience and that kind of things, like Naikani, especially off the bench, gives them a lot more experience than the other players who may have not played as much for South Africa as well. We move into the hookers, and I think 2 of these names pick themselves. Bismarck du Plessis and Adrian Strauss. Those 2 would definitely be the first on your team sheet any day of the week. Schalk Brits, he's a great, fantastic player, playing obviously over in the UK. So he's been in and out of the team. Do you agree with those 3? Is there anyone else you'd put there?
No, not really. I think Strauss and du Plessis, they're 2 veteran hookers, and yeah, so you can't really go wrong with them. And Brits as well. He's also got quite a bit of experience, but no, I don't think I would have gone anywhere else.
Schalk Brits is good. He's almost the mould of a Dane Coles, which I think is something that South Africa probably should look at, because Strauss and du Plessis are getting on a bit. Is that something you think all other countries are going to follow, the mould of that hooker that's extremely fast and agile around the field as well as being strong?
Yeah, well, Dane Coles has been devastating, especially in these last 2 years. He's got electrifying pace, and I think the rest of the world might start going that way with having these speedy hookers going around the paddock. So I think they might be trying to do something like that.
Does sound a bit like that. It's an age thing. Teams are going to start changing very soon. Speaking of age thing, we move to the second row, and one man who's definitely not got a high age on him, that is Ebenezer Beath, the first of the second rowers. We have De Jager Matfield, who's completely at the other end of the scale, and Peter Steph de Toit. 4 very good second rowers, I think. It's no surprise to see them. It's a Beath and Matfield proven their worth, but the question always with these guys, especially the likes of Matfield, is age. Is that becoming a factor in that squad?
I think this is a problem that the squad has inherited from 4 years ago, where the coach maybe should have started building with young players, and this is a byproduct of that. Really, you got a lot of old players, and you got a few young players as well. But players like Victor Matfield, who retired and then came back. Matfield hasn't been that bad, but I'm not the biggest fan of him. And obviously, Ibn Etzebeth is really young. He's an outstanding lock. Lua Diaka as well. He's very good lock, but the question is Peter Steph du Toit. He's just come back from injury, so I think he might be a bit of a gamble.
Do you think, I personally don't think South Africa need to call these players back out of retirement and bring these old players back? I think they've got enough young talent. Do you agree on that statement?
Yeah, 100%. I think this team has got a lot of old people and people that have been picked on reputation instead of current form, so I think that might be a problem in this World Cup.
Must be pleased to see the likes of Diega and du Toit there, though, because they were two players who aren't super old, and they have performed quite well over Super Rugby as well.
Yeah, they have. Peter Steph du Toit has been unlucky in the last few seasons. He's been getting injuries. He's an outstanding player, and waiting to see this du Toit-Etzebeth combination of the future. I think they kind of resemble the old Bucky's Butt and Victor Matfield, so hopefully we'll see that in the coming years.
And that's exactly what you mean when you say, they don't need to pull back the Matfields. We move to the back row and the last of the forwards, and they have gone with 5 flankers or back rowers. They've picked Dane Vermeulen, Skalkberger, I always say that right, Willem Alberts, Francois Lowe, and Sai Khaleesi. Does it concern you in any way that there's only one out-and-out number 8 in those 5 names?
Yeah, it is a bit concerning, and Dwayne Vermeulen has been injured with a neck injury, and he kind of made a miracle recovery, so it's going to be interesting.
Schockberger's proved that he can play there as well, so they'll probably, I'd say, go with that as well. But we're missing, what happened to the likes of Kudzia, Brousseau as well, who and even Warren Whiteley for that matter, who just aren't anywhere to be seen. Should have one of those been included into the back row squad?
Yeah, and this is where the political stuff you were talking about the other day in your video. Sai Khaleesi being picked, very surprisingly, really. So I think you can see what has happened there. Khaleesi's not a bad player, but he's definitely not in form right now. So I think this quota is coming into effect.
Yeah, but always is going to come back to that, isn't it? Those questionable selections. Sadly, it's so sad as well. That comes back to that old racial thing, which we're not even going into that right now. We're looking at the squad. It's just, it's so frustrating. And, and I'm on the other side of the world, I got a few comments from that video saying, you're in New Zealand, imagine how difficult it is for people in South Africa, which granted, I can't understand that. And it's just, it will do my head in, absolutely do my head in. So that's the forward pack. We've got question marks all through there as well. But into the back line, and this is where the excitement happens. We'll look at the scrum halves first off. And we have Dupree, Pinar, and Rudy Page. Now, there's always going to be question marks over the only uncapped player in the team. Are we going back to that topic of the whole quota thing again with Rudy Page?
Yeah, definitely. And, Kobus Reinach just got dropped from the squad as well, and he's been playing, for the last 2 years he's been playing on the bench or starting, so he got dropped in favour of Page. Obviously, that the whole idea of the quota comes in, and then we got 2 old scrum halves, and to be honest, I'm not a fan of either of those old guys, so I'm not too happy with the scrum half selections.
Is an area of weakness for the Springboks, you think?
Definitely. South Africa have got 2 of the best young scrum halves in the world. We got Kobus Reinach and we got Faf de Klerk from the Lions as well, and neither of them have been selected. And we've got Rudy Page in there who is a good player, but he's uncapped and unexperienced, and it's not a time for the World Cup to bring him in.
Do you think he's going to step up? Do you think he's good enough, Rudy Page?
South Africa's pool isn't the toughest at the World Cup, so I think he might get an opportunity, especially coming off the bench. And with an old guy like Farid Apria there, I think you're going to need a young guy like Page coming in, but it's just his experience that's a concern.
Do you think we'll ever see him again in a South African jumper?
Rudy Page or...
yeah, Rudy Page, yeah.
I think so. Unfortunately for him, I think he might, if I were him, I wouldn't like to be selected with question marks around me like that. Because he is a good player, and that's what's sad. He's got brought in probably because of the quota, and he's going to be known as that quota player.
Yeah, that's the sad part about it. People question whether he's good enough, like, just even talking about this now. He is a good player. I think he's quite a good player, but I was still surprised to see him, like you say, after they've had other players there, like Ronak and that as well. And Faf de Klerk, like, he's a fantastic little player, and just gone, nowhere to be found. 4 years' time, surely the other two, Pienaar and Dupree, will be gone by then. You might hopefully 2019 maybe for those guys. So we move outside the scrum halves. We'll look to the fly halves now, and 3 have been selected for there: Pat Lambie, Andrew Pollard, and Mornay Steyn. There's probably no surprise there of those 3. You probably could possibly look out to the other Steyn, Francois Steyn as well. Are you surprised with those 3, or that's pretty standard selections?
Obviously Lambie and Pollard. I'm a big fan of those 2. They're young guys. It's one of the positions in the squad that are stocked with young players. And then Mornay Steyn, he's a very good kicker, but just not as good as those 2 in terms of running and directing play. Yeah, but Mornay Steyn, he's experienced, and I guess that's what you need at a World Cup.
I have to agree. Andrew Pollard, I think, is one of the best young and up-and-coming players. There's a lot of young and up-and-coming number 10s as well around the globe, but we'll cover them another day. But Pollard, I think, is definitely the cream of the crop when it comes to those. Who do you think will get is number 1 out of those? Obviously, Pollard, would you think?
In terms of this year, I would have to go with Pollard as being the one getting the nod at number 10. His kicking has been questionable in the Springbok jersey this year. Lambie had a very good game against Argentina in that second game against Argentina. But right now, I think Andre Pollard's going to get the nod ahead of Lambie.
So if you had a semi-final match of the Rugby World Cup tomorrow against the All Blacks, who would your 9-10 be out of this squad?
Out of this squad,
put you on the spot.
Yeah, probably Pienaar and Pollard, I reckon.
Yep, that's probably pretty close to what they'd do, I'd say, from this point. Into the centres, and 3 have been selected for the squad. No surprise about these 3. 2 of them have been possibly the 2 best players from the Rugby Championship, and one, of course, the old veteran, the old hand, Jean de Villiers, Jesse Kriel, and Damon de Allende. Was there any surprise? I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, they were just the best, especially Kriel and de Allende, the best 2, no question.
Yeah, no surprises there. I felt for Jean de Villiers these past few months. He was top of form of his career when he got injured, and it's been a tough fight for him back. And then to come back and only to get injured again would be heartbreaking for him. And then obviously Jesse Kriel and Damon de Allende, one of the best centres combinations going around right now.
There's a lot of talk at the moment with this squad that Jean de Villiers was possibly, he goes into the Victor Matfield kind of selection policy. Too old, he's past it, it's time to move on. Do you think he's past it, or do you think he's still got a few seasons left?
I think after this year, I think that we're going to see Jean de Villiers go. I think if he can replicate the form that he had before his injury in this World Cup, would be I'd be very happy. But there's a lot of question marks around his name, like there are a lot of old players in this team. The coach has definitely peaked on reputation, I think.
Yeah, that's for sure. But his position as a captain is probably something that they've really missed. Do you think that will have the biggest influence rather than his actual play in the matches at centre? Definitely.
Jean de Villiers has proved that he's a very, very good captain. Just his ability to lift everyone. You see all the players lift when he comes on the field. He kind of has a presence like Richie McCaw does with the All Blacks.
Yep, that's very true. Couldn't agree with you more on that one. Into the back 3, the final positions of this 31-man squad. There is 5 names to go through here. Yeah, Brian Habana would get picked just about any squad in the world. JP Peterson, Luwazi Mvolvo, Zane Kirchner, and Willie Leroux. question marks possibly over a couple of them. Some people not happy with Zane Kirchner in there as well. JP Peterson's been pretty all over the place recently as well, and Volvo hasn't played a hell of a lot either. Do you see room for anyone else? Where's Cornell Hendricks and Mapo as well? Where have they gone?
Yeah, I think the main one for me is JP Peterson. Another old player has been selected. I'll put Hendricks in there instead of Peterson. Kirchner, I've never really been a fan of Kirchner, but he had a good game against Argentina, and you need someone coming up. You have Lambie as well that can cover the fullback position, so I'm not so sure where Kirsch's going to come in. And then in Volvo as well, hasn't played that much this year for the Springboks, but had a good game against Argentina, scoring 2 tries.
Is there any surprise here that there is no players from the Lions in this team? One of the huge improvers in Super Rugby, yet no representation. Even their form in the Currie Cup has been quite good as well. Are you surprised to see none of their players in there whatsoever?
I think I am very, I'm disappointed they're not there. I'm not surprised though. Lions do have a very young team, and it looks like age is the contributing factor to this team. Players like Whiteley, Mapu, de Klerk, players like those who are in form right now, not getting the nod for this World Cup.
Yeah, so it's come down, like you said earlier, reputation, what they've done in the past, things like that, that's picked the squad rather than form and, current abilities on the field. Do they agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the 31-man squad picked for South Africa. They are actually going to the Rugby World Cup amidst all the speculation and all the bullshit and that. They are actually going to the Rugby World Cup. That is a 31-man squad they're taking. Anyone you think is horrifically unlucky that you haven't mentioned already not to make it, or anyone who, you haven't mentioned that shouldn't be there massively?
I think I've mainly touched on the players that I think should be there. My main surprise was Cobus Reinach. He's electric with his pace. But yeah, I think I've touched on a lot of people. Lions players, as you said, that have been unlucky. Especially players like Warren Whiteley as well. So yeah, I think I've touched on most of the people.
So it's Rugby World Cup time. This is your 31 men. How confident do you feel that your team's going to go all the way? Where do you think they're going to finish? Do you have the confidence they'll go all the way to the very end?
If you asked me this question at the beginning of the year, mate, I would have said yes. I'm not sure there's been so much interference with this team this year. Didn't win a rugby championship match, finished bottom. So, I'm not too confident with this team, and a lot of old guys in this team as well. So, end of last year, that team that beat the All Blacks, that's kind of the team I was looking to go for the World Cup. But, this is the team that's been selected. They'll make it out of the group stage, obviously, but towards the finals, I'm not sure.
Do you think that's such a poor rugby championship is going to have a flow-on effect for this team going into the World Cup? Oh,
definitely. It's probably one of the toughest competitions in the world, the Rugby Championship, to have, normally the top 3 teams, not anymore, but what they call the Big Three in one competition, and it's going to affect their confidence.
It certainly is. I couldn't agree with you more. So, with all that squad naming underway, we'll touch quickly on the whole quota and court case debacle thing. Just quickly, what's your thoughts on that? Are you happy it's all blown over? Can you see it having an effect or rearing its ugly head again in the future?
Very happy that it's over, and I think I can almost guarantee that it would happen again. A very little known political party trying to come into the global spotlight, and they have. It's made news all over the world. So, it's going to have an effect on this team as well. Their preparation would have been screwed up by this whole thing. So, disappointed that this happened, but I think it's going to happen again.
Yeah, it's a sad state for South Africa. It's a huge disappointment, really. It's disappointing, but hopefully the squad can push on and make its way through. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Brett, for joining me on the channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been good to be on here.
And hopefully you can have some inputs or some other things later on if we have some more general topic discussions coming on the channel. Hopefully have you back if you're interested as well. But for now, thanks for your opinions, thanks for your time. Hope you've all enjoyed the video. Hit that like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the chat here with Brett about the South African squad going to the Rugby World Cup. And we'll see you all next time for plenty more Rugby World Cup squad namings as we make our way to the big tournament. Until then, thanks for watching and take care.